Filming is happening. Like, people talk about how crab is a... That aircon's been on the whole time. Are you able to hear that? Oh, I should do these again. I live in Australia. I've never left the country before. There's 500 of these, and I've flinged like 3 cards before I realized I needed them again because I needed to reshoot the whole thing. So that's gonna be fun if I realize some of this is unusable. On the way back from Windsor, there was also a WHS store. I think it was a WHS. And in it, it had Pokemon Labyrinth and Pokemon Jigsaw. I played Labyrinth when I was in primary school. So my brain went, oh, Pokemon and a nostalgic thing together, that's double the nostalgia. And so I had a real impulse buy to buy that. And then next to it, the Pokemon Jigsaw was color-coded, so it looked really pretty. And like, there was no reason to be in that store long, but I was standing there going, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And like, knew deep down I should not get it, too expensive. And especially on the pound, but I try to rationalize it with like, sure, it's twice as much Australian dollars to pound, but at least I get to avoid the shipping cost when I inevitably buy it at home. But the problem there is I impulse buy things that I probably wouldn't bother getting around to ordering at home if I waited. I think I know that deep down, which is why I extra want to buy it. It's like I know I won't want it later. So I double down on the urge to get it while I have the urge. Like, I don't want to let myself change my mind. My partner pointed out that bringing board games back home would be very difficult. And that was a happy deciding factor. Because yeah, if I try to put it in my suitcase, not only will the suitcase limit go right up, but it's a big board game to fit in my suitcase. So I'm glad I didn't get them. But I still look at that Pokemon Jigsaw like, if I can somehow find a way to make more money, that is a nice luxury that I definitely don't need, but ooh, it'd be nice to have. And also, the WHS had Pokemon cards, which reminded me, because Pokemon cards are definitely a splurge impulse item. So the fact that I'd already resigned myself to not buying any Pokemon cards because there'd be nowhere to store them and I'd have to let them warp and take them home 2 months later. So that the Pokemon cards just inherently acted as a reminder not to impulse buy. So ironically, the amount of Pokemon stuff it had got me very excited and at the same time reminded me not to get it. As we were heading back down the road, and I can't figure this out because we definitely parked in the parking place, walked quite a bit to Windsor, and then somehow we're driving back past this place because we were definitely in a car. I remember pulling out my phone because I saw a guy outside a place selling free fudge and he was like dangling the sign on his foot. He was doing all these cool tricks and then he just shouted out, "Core blimey, free fudge." And I loved that so much as a tourist. That's the thing English people say. That I pulled my phone out to like record a bit of it. And unfortunately don't have on record him saying "Call blimey free fudge." But I do have some video of him doing the tricks. And I hope they won't mind if I play a bit of it. Because this guy is what we would call in Australia a legend. Just like, you know his manager was like, go outside and bother people, tell them there's free fudge and they'll come in and buy stuff. And he committed. He was doing it all to get people invested. And if I had not been in a car at the time, if we had been walking past, I 100% would have gone in. Because free fudge, but also that guy. We also went to Avon Beach, where there was like a fish and chippery, and me and my partner tried crab for the first time, but we weren't sure about like whether to get it as a whole meal, so I think we got half a crab between us, and it didn't really taste...
But I found these results on search.
Oh wow, it googled Avon Beach. How do I turn that off? Hey Google, don't take my suggestions for an hour. It's slowed it, don't take my Suggestions,
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
that wasn't a Google recommendation. I got an article, quit deliberating and start making decisions. Hey Google, please ignore me for an hour.
Alright, your alarm's set for 1:57 a.m.
No! Unplug you. Oh my god. That didn't do that all yesterday when I was filming the first 68 of these. Where was I? We went to Avon Beach and me and my partner weren't sure whether to get like a whole crab because we wanted other stuff. So we got half a crab between us. So there wasn't really that much of it. And it doesn't really taste like anything. Like maybe it's rare or hard to get. But as far as like exquisite taste, I don't know. It was alright. But it was a nice fish and chip place. It was hilarious. The waitress kept coming up and asking if we wanted anything. And we were like, could we get some tomato sauce? And they came up like 6 or 8 times. Is there anything else you need? Yeah, tomato sauce. And it got to the point where like, she just kept forgetting. Like, I don't, hospitality, stressed, whatever. No judgment. Just funny. Just over and over again. Do you guys need anything? Yes. Tomato sauce. And we went for a walk along the beach where there was a mysterious door. Where does it go? There was also a bunch of holiday homes. And doesn't that just rub it in? It's hard for me to afford the holiday. And I'm there at the beach eating crab, looking at rich people houses and being like, I can't even afford a regular house. And yet, because of my ADHD, I was literally like, oh man, imagine if I could just like make a lot of money really quickly and buy one of those and then just live in England where the pound is worth more. Like, but the beach house will cost more. But I'm just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I just did that? Then I could come to England more often because I could go overseas to my beach house. I am delusional and bad with money. And then there were windbreakers along the beach and kites. And I know what you're thinking. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Thomas the Tank. Bird under the bench? I was trying to just take a photo of this bird and it just kept crawling under the bench and I was like... And no matter what, it just kept hiding. I got a few photos of it, but it was shifty. Was that 75? Or did I skip one? 75? Good, yes. We went back to the England house and watched the soccer finale. England versus somebody, and somebody won. By which I mean England lost. So that was sad. If I was invested in sport, I'd be really invested in that. But I am the sort of person where, again, ADHD, if you bring me to a game, I will get invested. Like, I won't follow it long term, but I will understand who you're going for, I will pick a team, and I will act like I've been a fan my whole life. And they lost. And then it happened. It was bound to happen eventually at some point. I can't believe it actually took this long, so it's genuinely a good thing. It was just, of course, bad timing for the one that I had. But a migraine occurred. I went 3 or 4 days in Singapore in 30-degree heat. Perfectly fine. I come to England where, you know what? England isn't prepared for heat. So Singapore had their aircon in the bus, in the shops, everywhere. And England, on the other hand, were like, what, it's winter? Even though it was England summer. People were just surprised it was hot at all. So you'd go out to places and everyone would be like, and you'd be like, we'll turn the aircon on. They'd be like, what's aircon? So granted, I was probably overheated more in England than I was in Singapore. And on top of that, when I had the stomach pains in Singapore, I did take stuff for it. By the time I got to England, I think I was getting a bit cocky because I'd been to Singapore in heat and been fine. So I think I just got to England and went, I'm not going to worry about it. And even then, I was in England, I don't know how many days, because I initially wrote down dates, but it all got confused. But my phone photo dates don't line up because it tracked Australia time and not England time, and I could work it out from there, but that's a lot of work. And you've seen, I've already like piled up my cards and made 500 of them, so the dates themselves don't matter too much. But I was already in England for several days, and it just so happened that I got a migraine not in Singapore, not in England, but on the way to the train to go to Scotland. So of all the times to get one, the optimal place would have been indoors at home after I'd done most things on a rest day off anyway. What I initially got was, like, by all means, several days of amazing experience. And literally woke up to get on the train and had the migraine as I was leaving. So people had to help me with I had my eyes shut because the aura kicks up and I can't see. Like, I can open them and see around the jagged light if I really need to, but for the most part, when it really kicks up, like, it goes for an hour, and it'll start with a little jagged blur and it'll, like, up until it covers the whole, like, so, like, my vision's kind of like that, where I can sort of see if I need to, but I am squinting and it's bright, and so I had my eyes shut to the car to be driven there, and it meant that by the time I got to the train station, the blur phase was right in its peak, and I had to get on a train. I had to pull out my phone to get my ticket ready, to scan it on a thing I couldn't see, using an app I'd never used before. It was chaos. And I want to say, even then, Ajovi-wise, I handled it quite fine. It was more the panic than anything, because I thought, okay, here we go, what do I do? But without the Ajovi, I would have been out that day. I would have nodded off on the train. I probably would have been out the next few days. I would have missed all of Scotland because I would have spent that week saying I can't possibly do anything because I might relapse and trigger another one, and I don't want to risk losing the week in Scotland by doing anything in Scotland, lest I trigger one. So you see how, like, I took myself out of even doing things because it might make it worse. But if I don't do things, I miss the week either way. So the migraines used to just be the week I got them, that's a non-week. I don't get to do anything that week. Whether it was anxiety fear or whether it was actually relapse problem or it was just headache, migraine intensity, like, if I'd gotten a migraine and not had the medication, that would have been it for Scotland. I was on a train to Scotland for no good reason. But because of the Ajovi, I shut my eyes, went on the train. That part was really difficult because it was scanning stuff that I couldn't see and whatever. Like, I pushed through. But when I got on the train, I put my sunglasses on that I specifically had for migraine aura, for light sensitivity. And I now don't remember if I mentioned earlier or not, but I don't wear sunglasses. I hate the sensory on my head. Even with these ones, I'm constantly pushing them into my eyes because if they don't cover my eyes, then I still see all the light around it, and that in itself makes me think I'm having a migraine because the light sensitivity seeps in cracks and looks like the jagged light I get during a migraine. So actually I bought these beforehand on the off chance that I got a migraine and needed to handle the light sensitivity and didn't want to risk any chance of the light sensitivity being the reason it relapses. So I bought these, put these on while I was on the train, which really helped because the window light was whizzing by. And I actually, despite having just had the aura for an hour, as it sort of faded away, I still get a flashy light after it. And I'm super light sensitive after that. I'm super headachy. The Ajovi makes the headaches better, so that was already easier to manage. It was like coming out of a drunken hangover or something. And the glasses, I started thinking, well, that's what it is. It's basically treat it like a hangover. You put your glasses on, and it's too bright, and you get to actually recover. So I had the glasses on for most of the train ride, and when I got off the train ride on the other side, I was pretty much there. Like, I still had a bit of a headache, and it was harder than before, but I was coping far more than usual. It wasn't like I didn't have to sleep for 3 hours, which was what the migraines were before. But migraine-wise, it was scary because it was the first occasion of, okay, how am I going to handle this? But I actually managed far more than I expected to. I think there were 2 trains because we took a train to somewhere, then we got off there, and that was a challenge, and then got on another train, and that was the hardest part, the transfer across while I was mid-migraine. But there was a lift, or elevator, oh wow, England's... I say lift anyway. There was a lift where it paused for a minute and then it had a sign, actions are being taken to free you from the lift. And I just went, that's a weird way of phrasing that. Maybe I just, as someone who's like learned storytelling in English, I certainly have, ADHD jumping. I have weird ways of saying things, but they don't say the doors will be opening. They're very vague about it. It just says, actions are being taken to free you from the lift. So that felt far more threatening than if they just said, the doors will open soon. Like, actions are being taken instantly makes you go, which actions? Surely you mean the doors are going to open, but why not just say that? And then to free you from the lift. Why? Are we trapped in here? I wasn't aware we were trapped in here. Why would you imply we're trapped in here? Like, it took it from, oh yeah, the doors will open in a minute, to, wait, it says we're not free. We're not free. Help, the elevator's stuck. You see how I switched between elevator and lift? That was not intentional. It was also a funny experience because in Australia, we do have zone 1 and 2, but for the most part, we have Mikey and we just tap our cards, and we have V-Line as well, so you have to buy a separate ticket for that. For the most part, because I live in Australia, I know how that works. They have, I think, Oyster Card or something like that. But we didn't have those. We had some app thing and a zone 1 or 2, I forget which. But the security guy on the other edge of the doors, like, we tapped on, it didn't work. And he's looking at us, and I'm going, because I can't see very well. I'm still having the flashiness. And my partner's explaining to him that we have a ticket, we don't know why it's working. And he's looking at it, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, I've got migraine, don't mind me. And I just thought, this looks super dodgy. These people are trying to get in. This guy's like, I have a migraine, let me through. And I just thought, there's every chance he just doesn't believe us. But he looks at our tickets, and he goes, where are you trying to go with those? And just the tone was like, you dumb tourists. In the politest way possible. Like, I would say, just when you've been there that long and someone shows you the wrong zone and you're just like, you're not getting anywhere today. I don't know what you're trying to do, but whatever you're trying to do, you ain't doing it. We're instantly like, oh, we're from Australia. And just the look in his eyes was like, I know, you're not from here, I can tell you that much. But yeah, we had the wrong zone, and luckily he let us through, so, nice guy. Oh, and then card 79 is migraine sunglasses. So, yeah. Those are really useful. I really did say before I left, I'll bring some just in case, but my whole life I've resisted sunglasses. And it is because most of them are too big and too wide. I do think I look kind of ridiculous in those, but they fit my eye shape. Also, because they're black light, and ones that I've tried were like very bright yellow or very bright orange. They didn't feel dark as much as they felt, it still felt like light sensitivity. It was darker, but I actually couldn't see anything. Especially with the blur flashiness, the light orange would just make everything look more blurry. And on the train in Scotland, there were these 2 kids, like, messing around, no problem. But it was funny to me, again, as a tourist, because we're on our way to Scotland, and I overhear one of the kids go, are we in Scotland? And the other kid goes, no! And I just thought, certainly sounds like we're in Scotland. Put him on this chair, man. When we got off the second train at the actual station, there was another elevator, and this elevator had like a queue behind it, so it was only like 2 or 3 of us at a time. And my initial migraine aura attack was passing, so I was at this point groggy but managing fine. And I've never forgotten this bit. This bit I did not need to write down at all, because we're in the line. We finally got up to the front of the line, and the people in the elevator let us in with them, but there was no more room. So the guy behind us kind of stops and goes, "Oh." And then we got in the elevator. It was supposed to go up. You know, we could have taken the stairs, but there were big stairs. Like, everyone sort of wanted the elevator just for convenience. We've been sitting on a train all day. And it was supposed to go up, but it went down, and there was nothing down there. So we went back up, and the elevator reopened on the floor where the queue had been, and the guy's face was just like, ding! And we're all looking at him like, yeah, no room. And then the door's shut, and we go up, and we're all laughing. It was pouring rain when we got out of the station, so much so that everyone who had gotten off the train with us were all like storming to the taxis. And while there was kind of a queue, there wasn't really a queue. Like, people were just congregating at the taxi area. And then when a taxi came in, whoever was standing where the taxi ended up was where you got on the taxi. And to the point where there were several people who were definitely behind others, possibly including us, but people just got in taxis. We were sort of like, well, no, go ahead, you were before us, whatever. But also the taxis were super, super expensive, and we ended up waiting for an Uber instead, whereas everyone was just going, no time, it's too rainy, jump in the taxi. Like, it was chaos. And I was just taking photos. I've never been overseas before. I was absolutely look at the building. When I'm there, I'm like, wow, what a building. And then afterwards, I'm looking through my photos like, why did I take a photo of that wall? We get to the apartment, and it's like a really old-fashioned sort of building, like a long corridor, and then there was like a staircase and a staircase and a staircase. So it was quite a high step up. And you would think heart condition wise, yeah, but like, didn't mind it. And even the heights didn't mind it. It was, yeah, I get up the stairs to the level and had to walk along the wall bit, but it was fine. And it gave it some atmosphere, actually. Like, we'd come home and climb these stairs, and they'd be steep, my legs, but you'd get up to the apartment and it felt like an achievement. Like, you'd get to the top and go, oh, I made it, home time, rest, sleep. Like, it just made the sitting down at the end of the day all the more rewarding, because the last thing you had to overcome were those stairs. And on TV there was BattleBots.
Somehow get back in there!
I love BattleBots. Like, it's such a simple concept. Just you take battles and you bot them. You take the bots and they battle, and it's just like, this thing has a chainsaw, this thing has a hammer. Blah. It's everything I love about anime fights, really. But in people have designed them and built them, and it never looks the same size. You see people riding the bots as they carry them out to the battlegrounds. And then when the bots are in the arena, they just look like tiny robots. They never ever to me look to scale. I know they're huge, but they just look like little machines. But I also find there's BattleBots and Robot Wars, and when Robot Wars comes on, I'm like, oh, hey, like, it's fine. But again, I like it when the bots battle. The American one, for whatever reason, has extra bots that I don't care for. Like, I know that they're big and they're scary, but it just feels like interfering. And the BattleBots one has the announcer who's like, to make one up on the spot, it's gonna be bad, but they're rough, they're tough, and they've had enough. Like, but he brings this charisma and energy that gets you pumped up for the fight. And the American one just doesn't. So I do find, I'm sure there are huge fans of the Robot Wars, but as soon as I see that it's Robot Wars and not BattleBots, I get disappointed. And as soon as I see it's BattleBots, my brain lights up. I'm super excited and super pumped that BattleBots is on. I freaking love it. And that is where Post-Rome hit. Like, I climbed those stairs with a headache and was managing quite fine, but as soon as I was able to lie down, I was out. Sleep time. Like, I didn't go to sleep because I don't do that anymore, and sometimes I wonder whether it'd be a good thing anyway, but like I was pretty knocked out by that point. Just exhausted from the train ride and the whatever. So yeah, Post-Rome hit, and that was sort of the end of the day, though we did go out later to go down to the shops. It was just a little bit of a walk. Like, it was a short walk. I actually did try some new foods. I'm not very adventurous when it comes to food. I'm very picky already. But there were these French chocolate biscuits, and there was a shiny Kleenex, which again, our Kleenex is so boring. I mean, actually, like, all things said and done, that's not too bad. Like, it's a nice design, I guess. But they had shiny gold Kleenex. Like, it made it look cool. Made it look like premium Kleenex. You're gonna blow your nose on it. But it made it feel important. And maybe that is my problem with it. You put gold trim on it and I go, oh, that must be more valuable than if it didn't have the gold trim on it. But I tell you, I'd be a lot more excited about buying Kleenex if it had the gold trim on it. I came across Del Monte and Green Giant. I was there. Me and my partner watched the whole of Unisarnus when it was happening. My partner introduced me to Markiplier and Jacksepticeye. And so when Unisarnus started during COVID, that was a really good thing to have. It was on every day, and we watched each one every day. But there was a time where Markiplier was looking for sponsorships, and it wasn't during Unisarnus, but that's what it reminds me of. But he started a weird feud between Del Monte and Green Giant, and I don't even remember which one actually won, but like one of them actually did sponsor him, and the other didn't.
Was that the bite?
But I was just like, hey, I recognize those. It didn't make me want to eat them or anything. But, hey, Del Monte and Green Giant. I get that reference.
What?
They also had what they called Wonder Mix, and I'm trying to eat healthier. So I was like, you know what, I'll try that. It's got like almonds and bananas in it, but it was so salty that you ruined the healthiness. Like, they were so salty I didn't even like them. It was too much. There was also what they call moist Aussie shampoo. Now, I hope we don't have that. But can I go on the record and say I've never seen that in my life, and that is not Australian shampoo, and we do not like things that have the word moist in them. Like, I once saw a comedian do an entire bit about how we don't like the word moist. And he was right. Blech. And on TV, so because I was coming off the migraine and we were resting off the train ride, we just watched some TV. There was Frasier, which I was very excited about, and Japanese Ninja Warrior, which was also fun. And then there were two shows I don't recognize, so they were new. Play Your Cards was a really, really old show, like, I don't know what decade, but it reminded me of like Blankety Blank's era. That really old game show style. Where you had to like flip cards over, and the entire game is just gambling. It's just, you just go higher or lower, and you hope to guess if the next card is going to be higher or lower. And it's surprisingly exciting. It's very much like Deal or No Deal, where you just like, there is no way to really win this. You just know roughly like what your chances are from what you have left, and you just get really hyped on is it gonna be big? Is it gonna be small? Is it, whoa, it was the thing, or whoa, it wasn't the thing. And, like, it's really basic, but oddly exciting. And then there was a show called Bridge of Lies, which I loved this specific episode because they had to walk across circle tiles, and there were different options. Some of them were lies, and you had to try and figure out which ones were the true facts. And there was this entire round where I've already forgotten, I think it was animals in movies. And so the whole time I was like, it's that one, it's this one, it's that one. Like, that made me feel like an expert because I've seen most of the movies that were involved in the round they were doing. So that's one of those episodes where you're playing at home like, I could have won that. I could be on that show. And then we wanted to go get some dinner. So we went down the road, and on the corner was a place called O'Connor's, and sometimes you just stick to the place you're closest to, but it was actually a place that I really liked and was really happy to go to multiple times. There was a chicken and bacon sandwich, and I, with heart condition, don't eat bacon very often at all. I almost swore off it just because heart attack risk wise. But in a really blue moon, I'm like, well, I haven't had it in years, so it should be fine. And this was one of those times. It was such a good sandwich. I ate all of it without thinking I should take a photo of it. And only the second time we went there did I take a photo of it because I was so full that I didn't finish it and then went, oh yeah, I should take a photo of it. There was also a tipsy guy who was in the toilets but couldn't find the exit. And it was like a really small toilet, cubicle-esque. Like, he literally was facing me, rotated, pushed on one of the doors and went, that's not it. And I was like, just turn 90 degrees again and do the other door. It was funny. And I think it was the next day, but I was feeling kind of sickly. Like, it wasn't just the migraine, I felt like just run down ill. And my knee was clicking in a way that, like, I couldn't walk down the stairs because it would just hurt and not move right. And that was the first instance I've ever had. I mean, I've had shoulder pains before, and, you know, I hit 30 and everything felt a bit more grindy, but that was like the first example of, this is what I'm gonna feel like when I'm 60. Like, now I understand why people in their 60s, 70s, 80s hobble, because my knee literally gave out. I had to drop one foot down the stairs and then just straight leg drop the other one. So it was step, drop, one step at a time. Like, I couldn't even do my usual 1 foot each step. It was literally just right foot out and then a left foot drag. Right foot out, left foot drag. And I just thought, yeah, when I'm 60, 70, 80 and I develop a knee problem, that's what it's gonna feel like. But in that moment, that was the oldest I've ever felt. And when we were crossing the road, like, our things at home go, but this one was just straight up like a fire alarm. Like, it went off and we all panicked. I don't even remember exactly what it sounded like. What I do remember is trying to record it desperately, and 2 or 3 attempts of it just not happening, or it going off and my phone didn't capture it somehow. There's literally a audio recording of my partner laughing because I failed to record it, and just, yeah, it was a terrifying alarm sound that's meant to tell you it's okay to cross the road now. But yeah. See it on camera, but there was a man eating chips, like swallowing them. Oh yeah, and we went for a long walk the next day. So despite the postdrome, I was actually like, I don't want to wait out this migraine and miss out on Scotland out of fear of having another one. So let's go do something, let's get outside. And we went for a long walk. It was uphill because you had to get to the city streets. And we passed a Royal Mail van, which, as I understand it, is the England equivalent of Australia Post. Like, I hate most of the other delivery companies because I've had negative experiences with pretty much every other company I've experienced. So I hope and imagine Royal Mail is as good as Australia Post is in Australia. Either way, they have the royal symbol on it and it makes it feel important. Seagull on a statue. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we were in Edinburgh specifically. So as we're walking towards like the main Edinburgh town street area where St. Giles Cathedral was, that's where we were heading. There was a KFC next to a McDonald's, but the priority was very clear. Who was winning the fast food wars was very blatant because the KFC was, let's say these cards are the KFC. Let's say the TV was the McDonald's. Like, the McDonald's was all the way down the street and around the corner in terms of size. It straight up covered from where the KFC was the rest of the street. Whereas the KFC next to it was like one single doorway. There was absolutely no competition between the KFC and the McDonald's. The KFC was tiny and the McDonald's was huge. And then we got to St. Giles Cathedral. But I'm gonna stop filming there and keep filming tomorrow. I got another migraine 2 days ago, and it is slowing down the process of making a video all about how I overcame the migraines, going from 2 months of a whole bunch of stuff to 2 months of migraines to trying to film this while having more disruptive migraines. What happened to the holiday brain that just got through it? Where did that go? But I have to keep going. Sorry if it looks like I haven't showered, or I just have to keep going. I have to get this done. It is nearly the end of the year and I'm running out of time. I want this video out of the way now. Like, I'm just, it took so much preparation. It's gonna take so much time just to film, and then I'm gonna have to edit it, and editing will be even harder with the migraines. So just get it done. Get it done. Perfectionism out the window, just getting it done. So then we went to St. Giles Cathedral, and yeah, it's cool. Like, again, I'm not a religious person, but I can appreciate the architecture and the meaning it has for people. When we went in, there was a little box of you could donate coins and money, and I saw a lady stick her hand like into it was a little gap where coins go, but she stuck a dollar bill in there, and it didn't even go in the hole. It just shoved and got stuck between where the coin's supposed to drop in and where the money is. And it wasn't even an English bill. It was an American dollar. And I don't remember if it specifically said $5, but there was like I feel like there was something that said like, please minimum $5 or something like that. Because I remember looking at that and thinking, wow, that's only $1, an American dollar in Scotland. The transfer rate is not even worth doing for an American dollar. In Australia, sure. You give us American dollar, we've doubled our money. But I just thought, how cheap. You walk into this grand cathedral and they're asking for a donation to keep it running, and you go, oh, I'll shove an American dollar in there. They can go transfer it. They can go do the exchange rate. And then you don't even put it all the way into the box. Lazy American dollar. Like, I thought that was both funny and offensive. Also, there was a person outside who very definitely did not want to be photographed, because every single time they were singing and doing some kind of spinning thing, like some kind of, I want to say knitting, but I don't remember if that was specifically what it was. And they were dressed very creatively, like very spiky hair, Scottish kilt, I think. And every single time someone went to take a photo, they put up like a sign, like to block their face. Because everyone was like, oh, hey, this entertainer singing and making stuff, free publicity. And this really got me thinking, because as an artist, I've seen the culture of, well, it's for exposure. And in some ways, that's what YouTube is. We do it for free so that we get our face and name and opinions and brand and whatever else out there, hoping that something else, it leads to something. You can't start with nothing, so you have to practice with free stuff in order to get around. Whereas this person definitely did not want the exposure. And it really got me thinking about privacy on the street. Because I already had it in my head when I was taking photos of buildings and stuff. I would try as hard as I could not to get other people in the photo. Sometimes getting really frustrated because I'd be trying to take a photo of something and people would stand in the way, or someone would be taking a photo of it and I'd wait my turn, and as soon as they left, someone else would jump in and I'd be like, I am here trying to take a photo. Like, I was waiting before you, it is my turn. But because I didn't have any kids, no one saw anyone run in to be taking a photo of. It just didn't occur to them that I was just trying to take a photo of just the building. So even then, there are plenty of photos where there are crowds in the background, and I thought, well, I'm not taking a photo of them. I'm taking a photo of the architecture. I'm taking a photo of the scenery. But what we've sort of unwrittenly agreed to on the street is that if you are singing, dancing, or performing, you are inherently part of the scenery. And at least for me, there is an exception. Well, obviously don't take photos of strangers. That's impolite. It's, like, for example, taking photos of people on the beach, bad. Don't do it. Because there's just an inherent, like, people have less clothing on and it feels creepy. But then on the regular street, it's like, well, there's not as much incentive for people to be trying to take photos of other people. And people are more commonly accepting of, oh, they're probably taking a photo of something around us. And it would be still weird to go, no, I'm taking a photo of this group of people. Because you would think, no, you have to ask them permission to take a photo of those group of people. But when it's a person dressed creatively and doing performative things, we instantly pull out our cameras and go, whoa, hey, look, a guy doing juggling, a guy doing painting. Whereas this person was going, hey, that's my face, you can't use it. No. And I thought, okay, well, it's one thing even to say, well, you can't go around asking every single stranger if they're okay to be in your photo when the photo isn't even directly about them. They're just accidentally in the background and no one's even going to care that they're there. Whereas this person had absolutely refused. So you couldn't even say, well, I wasn't able to ask them, even though ignorance shouldn't be an excuse either. Like, oh, well, I didn't know they didn't want to be taken a photo of. I can't go around asking everybody before I assume permission. Whereas this person had actively declined permission. There was no doubt about it. They did not want their photo taken. And I started thinking, okay, well, you know what? Fair enough. If they say no, you're not allowed to take photos of them. But to what extent are we able to do that on the street when it's a public place? Because what happens if every single person walks around with a shield? Like, can we do that? Do we all need to wear masks so that people don't recognize us? Like, can you imagine a society where everyone wore masks so they weren't in people's tourist photos? Like, for the most part, we do just accept that's a public thing and it will happen. But then, like, I hate how the paparazzi chase famous people. Like, sure, they're on the street, sure, they're a public figure, but, like, don't just assume that gives you the right to go take photos of them. They're trying to, like, that deprives famous people of the ability to go outside. So what happens when a performer is trying to perform and relies on people taking videos, putting them up on YouTube, and they get free marketing? But then in that same token, people are just going to assume they can take videos of you because they assume it's in your benefit when you might not actually be an entertainer. I think that's where I thought, okay, if you're entertaining, you have volunteered for people's time and attention. You have volunteered for people to see you as an event and not a person, which is a rough one. Because that is a weird way of looking at it. Like, you're not just a famous person trying to get about your day. You're not just a famous person trying to do your shopping and people hassling you. You're a person who is actively putting on a performance. And so they're not taking photos of you, they're taking a photo of the performance. But what happens, because this was then the exception in the other direction I thought of, what happens when a homeless person has no other way of making money and has not chosen, in all technical terms of the word, because you can say, well, in that same vein then, they haven't chosen, they still chose to perform instead of starving, but it's not really a choice. So at what extent does a homeless person who has no choice but to perform, to get money to live, so they're not going to the shop, so they're not going to the supermarket, that performance is their supermarket. That is them trying to get by. And we go, look at that person dancing. What happens when then that homeless person doesn't want their privacy invaded because even though we go, it's a public place, that's their home. And then I found out they're not homeless at all. Actually, they're pretty well known in Edinburgh. They've got their own show. So the exception I thought of on the street was if they're homeless, then they're not really volunteering to do art. They're not sacrificing something to the public and thereby volunteering their face and likeness to the public for that moment. Like if you watch something on TV, you're not supposed to shut your eyes because the person hasn't yet given you permission to watch the TV show. It's on TV, you're allowed to watch it. It's on the street, you're allowed to take photos of it. But yeah, it really got me thinking about the thin line between just assuming permission because there's no formal business on the street, and at the same time assuming our right to other people's privacy when they may not have volunteered that. And that's the other thing, they were charging money for photos, which no one was paying. I mean, some people might have done. I didn't see it. So there may have been several people that went, okay, we want to take a photo, and they're asking for money for the photo, so that's a fair transaction. But again, it comes back to that weird exception. If you're in a place of business, you pay money for entry, or you pay money for the use of the space, because that's a private thing, and you need to pay money in order to access it. The problem with the street, like the crowds of people, is they're already there, and there's no way to cut yourself off from it until they have permission. So it's really hard for a crowd of people to say, no, we are in a bubble or a shield, and you can't see us. So there's no way for us to end up in your photo until you get our permission. So with public street performers, it's really hard to charge for photos because they can just take one and move on. And that gets me thinking about like what a photo is worth. Because you can't just take things from people on the street, that's stealing. But you can take their face in the copy of a photo, and that's fine. They don't own that. Even though in any other setting, they would own their face and likeness. This is really the problem with copyright. It is too complicated to just say, I own this thing and it can't be touched unless other people transact some money and then they can use it, but only under these settings. Because when it comes to your face, you own your physical face, but it's really hard to own your metaphorical face. Like, people can draw a face that looks like yours and then just say it's not yours. At some point, you own yourself, but you don't own the image. There's no way to isolate that image. In the same way, you can isolate a business behind closed doors. But if you want to say, you can't take a photo of my face without my permission, that sounds completely reasonable. And then the trouble I'm having is I go, yeah, but there's no way to enforce that. So is it fundamentally wrong even though people can't enforce it? Is it fundamentally wrong to take photos of entertainers without their permission, even though they're on the street and it's just the much easier given social thing to go, I saw it and I want a memory of it, as opposed to, no, I couldn't possibly, that wouldn't be fair on them. Because, like, it should be a difference between people and architecture. But on the street, we do tend to just assume the people are part of the architecture. Basically, it got me thinking about the business of photographs. Because like, what is, in our society where we have phones on us and cameras on us at all times, what is a video of something or a photo of something worth now without that transformative nature, right? You go videotape something like I'm doing now, edit it into something more than just a random occasion on the street, and then it's some kind of entertainment you can sell outside of the thing people took videos of. Like, the behind the scenes is worth a different value to the actual edited thing. When a photograph is such easy access, and part of tourism is taking photos of things, like, that's a big part of the experience. And there were places where you were banned from taking photos of the architecture, even after paying to access and view the architecture. So you've paid your entry into the private place and then are still told, this is private property, don't take photos of it. And I'm referring mostly to the palaces and things. So even the architecture can have limits, even after being granted access. But it's not enforceable. Several people just either didn't see the sign or ignored it. I took several photos of one of the palaces before I noticed the sign, and then was like, oh, pfft. Because I thought, if I can't take photos, I can't get memories. And if I can't get memories, why did I come here? But that's really the problem of it, right? We're at a point where people take photos of entertainers on the street so they can remember having seen that entertainer. And if that entertainer then wants to refuse permission for them to take photos because that entertainer doesn't want to be forced to work for free, what we basically have now is a corporate living where you shouldn't get someone's entertainment for free because that's how art gets taken advantage of, and yet people can just videotape your art. And at what point is that copyright when it's on the street? Like, you see what I mean? Like, we have these ideas of, well, you can't videotape a theater performance because they want to be able to sell the DVD rights. But you still just can. But then if you if you go to the movies and film in the movies, they have every right to kick you out. And I'm on board with that, because that's like, firstly, it's annoying to the people in the theater, but yeah, at what point then is it's like, well, that's private property, and they say you can't videotape that, so you can't videotape that. We're there to see the architecture of the palace, but if the palace thinks it's a security risk, then okay, fine, we're not allowed to take photos, that's their right to make their rules. But if you're on the street and there's no rules, what are the rules? Because it really makes it sound like a real street logic. Like, you can't hit someone on the street because that's still assault. But then it's like, at what point is videotaping someone harassment? Because I would grant that would be their defense. They'd be like, everyone keeps taking photos of me. And then at what point we get into a weird gray area of people going, oh, but they were dressed creatively, so they were asking for it. And it just becomes so muddled, and it really got me on a train of thought of, I just assume that if you're on the street, and especially if you're performing, no, actually, only if you're performing. If you're on the street, you at the very least agree to be in the background of photos by accident, because it's just very hard to avoid that and very hard to enforce it. If you are doing something entertaining, I suppose it begs the question, how entertaining do you have to be? If someone's telling jokes on the street, but they're not charging money for it, at what point can people go, can we videotape you? These jokes are funny. And then at what point can that person go, only if you pay me? Because everyone just has a phone on them, and there's no way to stop it. And that shouldn't be the rule. Well, you can't stop them, so oh well. People don't have any right to privacy, but they can't. And it just never occurred to me that someone entertaining on the street would go, what are they taking photos of me for? How dare they? Bird just dropped down the window. Whoa. But like, they actually do have every right to say, well, I'm performing some art, and that art should have value, and then it's not fair for you to just take that art and have a free copy of it. But that again all comes down to the business problem of money is based on scarcity and whether people value that art. There is so much art for free, because no matter how much we can say that's not fair, you should pay me, people only pay for what they can't get for free. It should be people pay for what they value, but they're gonna value it more if they can't get it for free. And I hate to say it, but people don't value taking photos of something that much. Because that's the problem. It's just such an easy access thing that people can take a billion photos of things and not think about it. But then it does beg the question of, well, if they don't value it whatsoever, then why do they want to take a photo of them? Just don't. And it's like, no, well, but it's an entertaining thing. It's part of our holiday and it's part of the joy of the experience. So it does have value until you put a monetary value on it. Then it's not valued enough. And this is the problem. There are some things we will happily take for free. We will happily get value out of, but we either can't afford or have to step back and ask ourselves whether it's really worth the money. And at that point we go, it'd be a nice thing to have, but nah, not interested. And that's really the problem is people valued the photo as long as it was free, because it was a blip on their holiday and it was a little ping of joy. And then as soon as that person said, no, don't stop taking photos of me, I want money, everyone just kind of went, oh. And they went from joy to offended. And as weird as it is for people to be offended that they can't take a photo of someone else without that person's permission, it also feels weird for that person to go, no, I want to make money out of every single thing everyone enjoys about me, and if not, they can all go away. Like, they have every right to do that. But it's such a futile thing to do. But maybe that's my only point to this. It was such a waste of energy to try and stop people taking photos of them, and yet it must bother them that much. And that just got me thinking. I have no conclusion to that, because it's the murky waters of charging money for experience. General experience you can get just being outside. I got sick of having to slide down every time, so just put the screen a bit smaller, that's fine. I should have just picked a white wall. I was like, I'll put this photo on the screen, but like the angle did not work out.